Right on time. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to City Council. Thank you for coming to our beautiful City Hall. I'll call the meeting order, and I'll call for attendance, and everybody's here. Thank you so much. I will ask the clerk for a moment of reflection, please.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Thank you. Amen. You can be seated. Thank you. Okay, and also today is a privilege to introduce Ted and Kathy Risco. Ted is going to bring us some greetings at the podium, and then collectively we will all stand together and we will we'll sing "O Canada." Sir, you have the podium. Good afternoon.
Thank you. This is working. Okay, it is now. Thank you. Your Worship and Councillors, thank you for inviting Kathy and me to lead O Canada to start this meeting. But first, a bit of history about our national anthem and its recent change. The English version of O Canada was written by Robert Weir in 1908, which contained the words, "True patriot love, in us thou dost command." In 1914, Weir changed that to "in all thy sons command." From reading and talking to people and from the internet, I've learned the following. The Canadian Encyclopedia suggests that this change may have been made because of a tremendous surge in patriotism during the First World War, a time when in the armed forces only men were allowed to fight. Weir's phrase of 1908, "True patriot love, in us thou dost command," really says that it commands God's commanding every Canadian man and woman to show true patriot love to Canada. However, in 1914, there was a need to entice men to go to the Western Front, where they probably would be killed. So Weir changed the word "us" to "thy sons" to stir patriotism within young men, implying that God was commanding them to enlist, and this probably helped because nearly 600,000 joined. After the war, Canadians continued to sing "Thy Sons," revering the glorious fallen youth of the First World War, the kids who believed that Weir's 1914 change to "all thy sons command" was a call to arms for men, and all 60,000 that were killed at the front were males, sons. As new conflicts came along, we continued to sing the praises of our World War I sons, but to that list was added the fallen of the new conflicts. And to Canadians, the songs evolved to identify thy sons not just as males, but as part of mankind. And Canadians respected that thy sons included our fallen women. Very recently, in a quest for gender neutrality, thy sons was removed and replaced with of us. But we weren't told what the word "us" stood for. So let's say that the phrase "all of us" means all Canadians, which includes our 117,000 fallen sons. But grouping all of us in the country and in this room with our glorious fallen dilutes the reverence that was previously uniquely reserved for them. A reverence that resounded from grateful Canadians who sang "Thy Sons" in O Canada for 104 years. Although most adults will continue to sing "Thy Sons," not wanting to disrespect our fallen, in schools, children are now taught to sing the new words. So, as not to lose the connection with our fallen sons, we should play the national anthem as a video so that the children can see pictures of our heroic sons, considering that the word "sons" has been taken out. In our video, the phrase "in all of us command" starts with an image of a World War I gravesite in Europe and ends with 4 hearses traveling down the highway of heroes. And during the phrase "true patriot love," images of the Northwest Rebellion, the Boer War, World War I, World War II, and Korea are displayed. So, Your Worship, please play the video.
Thank you. If we can all rise, please, for O Canada.
Thank you, Your Worship. That ends my presentation. I'm at your disposal for discussion or dismissal.
Thank you so much. Any questions from council? Seeing none, thanks so much, sir. I just need a motion to receive a small deputation from Mr. Ted Resnick. Moved by Councillor Denier, second by Councillor Miller. All in favor, carried. Thank you so much for patriotism. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you Canada Day at Swicks Park.
Take care.
Take care, sir. Item number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Councillor Panchak.
Thank you, Mayor Christopher. I have 2 items to rise upon. First is item A4. I declared this 2 council meetings ago. It's regarding the electrical service contract. I'm the immediate neighbor of one of the bidders. And while on my feet, I also want to declare that I won't be participating in item 8B3, which is dealing with sidewalk repairs and replacement contract. Under the purchasing bylaw, I believe there was a violation where I was approached by one of the bidders inadvertently, and the topic of the bid came forward. So I believe this is the appropriate place to declare that contact, so that in an abundance of caution, I comply with the bylaws of the Corporation of the City of Belleville.
Thank you. Anybody else going around the chute? Seeing none, I have a couple of declarations here. 8B2, Bill Belleville Projects, item number 2, the Mineral Maitland Drive Service Reconstruction. I've identified that in the past, and once again, I'm a partner with a business owner and property on Maitland, and I've declared in the past. And also on 8A4, the electrical services, I had a proponent contact me about 3 days ago to discuss the RFP, and I made it perfectly crystal clear that he put me into a conflict, which would be one reason. And the other one is I have one of the proponents started doing work now for an immediate family member of mine. So I'll be declaring on 8A4, 8B2, item number 2. And I've got a note here for the clerk for the file. Okay. Number 4, public meetings. Seeing none. Number 5, reading and confirmation of the minutes. Minutes of the special council meeting June the 6th, 2018, and special in-camera session June the 6th, 2018, and regular council meeting June the 11th, 2018, and regular in-camera session June the 11th. Moved by, need a hand, moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Denier. All in favor? Oh, I apologize. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like the minutes to reflect that I had been in touch with the clerk regarding the special council meeting of June the 6th with a written declaration of conflict of interest at that point.
Thank you. So noted.
So I did not attend.
We'll note that formally. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. We have one deputation. Mr. Palmer Stevens is in the audience. Mr. Peter Gabriel who's either a rock and roll star or an ex-football player. President and coach of the Skyhawks football club will do a deputation. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I apologize. I'm not familiar with the protocol, so
You're doing good. You're doing
I
good.
apologize. This was originally we were going to be coming to speak about a billboard in the town, but that's going to been tabled till next year. But I just wanted to come today and share with you a little bit about the program, the success we've had in the program, and the community's involvement. I have a few of our programs that I thought you might like to see, sort of to show some of the businesses, the number of community businesses that have come behind to support the effort, and the professionalism of the program is sort of represented by the quality of the product. We have had a great opening to our season. This is the first season of varsity football in the history of Belleville. We have had in attendance to our 3 home games. We've had over 1,500 people come to our first 3 games. And we've been visited so far by Scarborough, Peterborough, and the Etobicoke Eagles will be coming. We've had just a wonderful time, and I just wanted to thank the council for their support and the provision of facilities and infrastructure like Mary Ann Stills Field, because without that field, this wouldn't be possible. And this level of sport in the community gives our young athletes the opportunity to showcase their abilities and to attract the attention of universities and hopefully win scholarship. And that's really something that will be the real victory for us as an executive and a coaching staff, to see young people, athletes, players develop in character, but also to go on to play at the next level and earn that scholarship. We had this week, Queens was here scouting our boys, looking at the grade 10s. We had a prep school come at our second game, and we've seen other universities at our games out of town. So next year, we're going to double all of it. We're going to have a senior varsity team as well. So junior and senior, right, that's going to be 100 kids and families, striving to represent the community in this sport across the province. So it's very exciting. It's been a great opportunity to watch these boys grow in their athleticism and develop character. And we're going to be giving back into the community in a way. This weekend, we are hosting a pancake breakfast fundraiser for the new Grace Inn shelter. The boys will be serving pancake breakfast at St. Thomas Anglican Church to anybody in the community. So we're trying to, make this just greater than football, where it's about the community. Community's invited to participate in game day. We're doing it different than any other community in the conference, actually. We have from the 8-wing band was in attendance. We have choirs that are going to come and sing the national anthem. We have the local cheer and athletic teams that are going to put on halftime shows. So we're really trying to make this Quinty's team, it's been a great fun and great to be a part of. And we just thank you so much for your support to this point, and we look forward to working with you and interacting with you, and hopefully leaning on you for some guidance, advice, and resources probably in the future. So anyway, I appreciate your time, and if you had any questions for me, I'd
thank you
love
for
to
coming. It's
entertain
very informative. Any questions from the floor, Councillor Thompson?
Just a quick one. Thank you very much, and great to see it in our community. Your schedule. I just looking through the pamphlet. It isn't in here.
Yes. That one, I have in another. That one we changed because we have a close relationship with the Belleville Minor Football League, which you may be familiar with. There's 10 teams that represent the youth from grades 5 to 8 in the area. We dedicated that game to their program and put their schedule in, but we have... Would you mind passing that? You'll see the schedule in there. Each of our home games has been dedicated to a different organization. We had the first one was to our nation's military. We had Champ Day just now. We are also going, that was for the athletes that have come from Belleville, moved on to play football at the next level. And then now our last home game, which I believe is on the 21st, is going to be dedicated to our first responders. You know, so we invite them to come and engage and set up a display, meet the community, and just be honored in that way. So, yeah.
So when are the home games? What night?
Well, we have one more home game, and it is on the 21st of July. And I'm not sure, you might have the time right there in front. 1 o'clock. Kickoff 1 o'clock. We have a fan zone experience that starts 2 hours prior to the game, where there's all sorts of games, face painting, barbecue, you know, just all sorts of things for the community, kids to get involved in. I have 3 kids myself. Only one of them likes football, so I'm dragging the other 2. So this way, everybody has something they will enjoy.
Good. Thank you very much. Great deputation, great presentation. Nothing but the best in the future for you.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Can I just get a motion to receive the presentation? Moved by Councillor Miller, second by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Item number 7, correspondence. Before you, there's a resolution that the June 19 letter, 2018, from the Belleville Downtown Improvement regarding the Summerfest and markets in the village for the 28th of July be received and referred to consent items 8B11. Moved by Councillor Panchak, second by, going once, going twice, by Councillor Graham. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item number 8, Committee of the Whole. Motion to go into Committee of the Whole and to hear, consider reports, passing recommendations, resolution. Councillor Panchak in the chair. Moved by Councillor Miller, second by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That's carried. There we go.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Committee of the Whole. The agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council. We'll start off with AA1, disposal of surplus land, unopened laneway, Bethel Road. Director, Corporate Services Clerk, report number DCS 2018-23. The resolution is that council declare surplus an unopened laneway described as Part 1 of Plan 21R 54-13 in the City of Belleville, and that a bylaw to stop up, close, and convey to the abutting property owner Part 1 of Plan 21R-5413, Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, unopened laneway bisecting 1187 Bethel Road, be prepared for council's consideration. Motion by Councillor Denier, seconded by Councillor Carr. Any discussion? Councillor Boyce. Oh, he's just very anxious to have this pass. All in favor? It's carried. 8A2, the disposal of surplus land, unopened laneway, Airport Parkway. Director, Corporate Services Clerk's report number DCS 2018-24. And the resolution is that council declare surplus an unopened laneway described as parts 1 through 7 of Plan 21R 25106 in the City of Belleville, and that a bylaw to stop up, close, and convey to the abutting property owner parts 1 through 7 of Plan 21R 25106, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, unopened laneway abutting 374 Airport Parkway, be prepared for council's consideration. Motion moved by Councillor Denier, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. 8A3, Facade Improvement Program, request for additional 2018 funding. Manager of Approvals, report number PP-2018-18. And the resolution is that pursuant to the Manager of Approvals, report number PP 2018-18, the 2018 Facade Improvement Program operating budget be amended with an increase of $135,000 to be drawn from the Casino Reserve Economic Development allocation as funds are available following the July 2018 payment, and that an application deadline of October 15th, 2018 be set as the last day to receive applications for the 2018 Facade Improvement Program year, and that the Facade Improvement Program guidelines be amended to clarify that work on approved projects must begin within 1 year of council approval. So I get this on the floor with a motion moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Boyce. Any discussion on this? Councillor Thompson.
I have 2 questions on that particular. I see on page 9, we're allotting $111,000 from the Casino Reserve Fund from the Economic Development funding, and 24 from the future casino funds. One question on the 24,000. Do we normally spend casino money before we receive it? And is that in our mandate?
Well, I'll ask the director, but I think it's regarding funds that'll be available on July 2018.
I know, but we're approving it in June.
Yes, okay. Director Cousins?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, I believe when we discussed the policy on the casino allocation, I recommended that we don't spend more, or don't spend any more than what we have. But given that the date for the next payment is July the 21st, around there, for the period April, May, and June, that it's not a normal process.
And second, the 111,000 from the economic development allotment amount, Mrs. Post, had she an opportunity to give a presentation whether she needed that money for anything in particular in the economic development?
We're just looking to see if Ms. Post is in the audience. I don't believe so. So may I direct that to Director Bove or to the CAO?
So yeah, thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Thompson and to all of council, really. I think I've had some discussions with Ms. Post about this issue, and I think really what she would prefer, because it is an economic development, was set aside for economic development purposes, is that there be some plan set aside where these priorities for true economic development issues are kind of vetted through council. So I think it's so soon in the process and that we haven't had that opportunity to do that yet, and we really don't have a long record yet of how much funds are going to be diverted to that reserve. Now we are getting a history. We've had now 3 payments, or we've had 4 payments, I guess, so far. So we're now getting a history of how much we will get annually, hopefully, if all goes well. But we have not as yet had a plan set up for this. And but there's others in the city staff, obviously, who look at facade improvement as part of our economic development strategy within the downtown, I think. So, you know, so I'm giving you some mixed messages, but in the end, I think if you ask Ms. Post, she would probably say she would prefer a bit of a plan and a priority of how we do that. And I think we want to do that, but we are unfortunately in a position that at this point in time, we don't have that plan yet.
So, I know we're just approving the 2 funds, but is there plans on order that this plan be put in place so they, for when we go into 2018 funding, that plan will be there, so we know where the money is going to be spent for the economic development? Because I think that's important for our community, that if we have money from the casino, that it be spent, not that the facade program isn't good for economic development, but if it's a lot of economic development, I'd like to see a plan for it, that it's in place. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, and through the chair to Councillor Thompson and to council, okay, we certainly, as staff, we will certainly proceed with the plan to try to get that back to council. Then we would also be looking for an alternative source for this program if council wishes this program to continue.
okay, thank you.
Just in following up to Councillor Thompson's question, Mr. Kester, we knew that this casino revenue funding would be set out through last summer when we went through the process. How long do you anticipate that the department will bring forth a recommendation on the process to spend those funds? Would it be this term, or will it be for the next council?
We would hope, these are capital funds, so we would hope that by the next capital budget that we would have a plan in place for that discussion.
Okay.
So hopefully early in the new year.
Right. Councillor Boyce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's never really a good thing necessarily coming back to, when you're on a committee, coming back to City Council and asking for more money. However, in this particular case, it's a matter of the the downtown revitalization has been so successful in terms of bringing new life into downtown. The businesses that historically weren't interested in necessarily facade improvement, or perhaps the percentage was too low what they were receiving back. We're now seeing that, where we used to have 3 or 5 businesses maximum apply, we see in the report that there was 12 in 2017, and already there's 8 this year, and this year is basically, only a few months old, and it's a good news story. When any one of us goes downtown and we see the revitalization that's occurring within the buildings, and I spoke to business owners that say that it has a lot to do with with not only the work that the city has done towards revitalizing, but it's the facade grant. So I would hate for council then, right when we're in an upsurge and a momentum where we've got the businesses applying, I would hate to then cut the tap, basically. And from hearing around the table, generally the consensus is that it's positive and that we would continue. I certainly agree with Councillor Thompson that there needs to be a plan in place. Right now, there isn't a plan in place, and I certainly would welcome seeing one put in place. But I'm definitely going to approve this. Councillor Graham and myself and sit on the committee, and His Worship's, when one of us has been absent, he's also been involved in it as well. And it's a positive thing. So I'm hoping that council looks at what's happened downtown and continues to invest in it.
All right, thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Essentially, and what's been pointed out, that for years we had all this money and nobody wanted it. But we did change the rules pertaining to this particular grant to the point where it's almost 100% funded now. Once upon a time, it was 50% funded, and if you happened to be on a corner, you were eligible for more. The maximum was more because you were dealing with 2 facades versus 1. Correct me if I'm wrong to any committee member, but I think now we're funding 75% instead of 50%, and that was done with the hope of getting this program going. And it's working, and I believe Trenval will loan the remaining 25% to the business who's applying for this. So it's very attractive, certainly much more so than it was earlier on, and then with all of the revitalization happening in the downtown area, it's happening at a good time. It's doing what we want it to do. As the CAO pointed out, in as much as, okay, we're going to dip into this account because the funds have not been allocated, and they're there, they're handy, and we have this influx of proposals coming our way, but it can't be the supplier of funds going forward. And so the next council, when it's budget time, will have to deal with a budget line. They're going to have to find that money somewhere else, because I certainly wouldn't support it coming out of this account. And what I'm saying is we can't be setting it as a precedence that the monies will always flow from this account for this purpose. The purpose is good. I'm going to support the motion, but at the same time, it's really 2 questions that need to be resolved by the next council. Maybe one this council regarding how those funds in the economic development portion of the casino revenue is going to be used, and the other, how the funding for the facade improvement program is going to be funded in the future.
All right, thank you. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly, and I think I've spoken quite clearly on it in terms of battling urban decay. I think my position has been quite clear, and I think this program is doing an excellent job in achieving those goals. I'd be curious to know if it's achieving other goals, whether that be lower vacancy rates, increase in business traffic, things of that nature. When you look at the report, it talks about stimulating the private sector investment, and at 75% city funding, 25% Trenval loans or private investment. But is that translating into true economic development, or is it just simply battling urban decay? Now, don't get me wrong, I think we need to be doing that, but in terms of actually measuring the success of the facade program, I think we need to really go a step further and look at what is that return? My biggest concern here is we're spending money we don't have yet. We're speculating. And I recognize, you know, the discussion around that this isn't precedent setting and certainly will be, or won't be. But nonetheless, I think it's a slippery slope to be drawing down on a reserve account of which you're anticipating money. So walk through gas tax, walk through some of the other, that we kind of have an idea of what we're going to do with it, but until we've got confirmation that the money's there, we don't allocate it anywhere. And we do that for a reason, to make sure that we're fiscally prudent with the money we do have. Now, do I think the money's going to be there? Absolutely. At the end of the day, the money that we receive is dependent on the traffic at the casino, how much is left in the machine, and then gets distributed accordingly. So we can kind of get an idea, as the CEO referred to, but they're all variable. And so I think it's dangerous to be drawing down on a reserve account. I know it's only $24,000, and that's not a lot considering some of the monies and the budgets we look at. But nonetheless, I think the principle is dangerous. And so I guess I got a couple questions. Is number one, are we measuring the successes of the facade beyond the completion?
Yeah, I think Mr. Pynchon is here in the audience. I wonder if we can have him come forward and answer that. Mr. Pynchon, welcome. I know you're doing double duty these days. Are you the appropriate person to pose that question to?
I believe at the moment I probably am, yes.
Okay, did you understand Councillor Carr's question?
Certainly, yes. Through the chair, I think the measurement on the program to date has certainly been looking at the successes that we get out of the completed projects and the improved facades. I don't think we've really gone beyond that to look into the you know, business retention that's associated with those facades and things like that. But certainly the buildings themselves, and we've been seeing from that, while the funding is at 75%, it's capped at either 15 or 20,000. So we're seeing a lot of larger projects that are effectively meaning the municipality's funding less than 75%. So we're leveraging upwards of $875,000 in total investment, including the private sector, over the last 4 years.
Great, thank you. Councillor Carr?
Thank you. And Mr. Pynchon, while you're here, through you, Mr. Chair, on page 2 of your report, bottom paragraph, it talked about the committee approved a resolution to elaborate on the existing requirement for completion within 2 years, so as to require that projects be underway within a year of approval. So the question I have is how many projects are not in compliance with that?
Currently, I believe, through the chair, there's only one that has been approved for more than 2 years that hasn't been completed yet. The committee would like to see that projects also begin within the first year after approval, and I think there are maybe 3 or 4 others that are in that category where they've been approved, but they haven't gotten to 2 years yet.
So going down that line in terms of completion of projects or not starting projects, when do we release the funds? Is it at the upon approval or during the project or upon completion?
Through the chair, it's actually after the project's been completed for at least 45 days. Standard declaration is signed to show that all accounts have been paid. That's where Trenval has actually come in and allowed people to apply for upfront funding and then receive the grant at the back end, but the city doesn't advance any funds until everything's finished.
And just one last question, Mr. Chair, is, and I understand the time frame you have, if we were to delay this until we actually receive the money, would we still be able to proceed with these applications within a reasonable time frame?
Ultimately, yes. I mean, we have, I believe, 4 applications in the queue currently that we don't have funds for, so it would be a matter of pushing those projects back in order to enable the applicants to make sure that they were approved, I guess, before they got right into it. But yes, ultimately that is at council's discretion.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, and that's, I guess, when it comes down to it, and I appreciate the fact that there's some enthusiasm and certainly don't want to quell that, but at the same token is that we're entrusted with public funds and we need to expend them appropriately, and I just think that drawing down on money we don't have is not necessarily prudent at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions for Mr. Pynchon while he's at the podium? Okay. Mr. Pynchon, thank you very much, and thank you for helping with this program that's working very, very well. Appreciate you coming forward. Councillor Boyce.
Just a clarification, that we do have 100, are you just referring to the 24,000? Because there is the 100...
Sorry,
I'm referring this through you to Councillor Carr, when he says about the money we don't have. There is 111,000 that is in the account as it stands now. There's more, but I mean, we were taking 111,000 out of that. Are you referring just to the additional 24,000 that we are likely to receive in mid-July?
Councillor Carr, can you give a quick answer to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Part of it is absolutely through you, Mr. Chair, is the fact that we're allocating money to a program that we don't yet have in the reserve. The other side of it, and I did point out, or I do see Ms. Post's comments here with regards to drawing down on economic and strategic initiatives. We've got a broad definition under that reserve account, but we really haven't come up with a program in terms of what it is we can identify. So I do have some concerns there, but my bigger issue is that we're allocating money into out of a reserve account of which we don't have full funds for.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll let you finish up on your second round.
Just so then, like, I mean, we do have the $111,000. So it sounds to me like you're just talking about $24,000. Yeah. Correct?
Yeah. I think it's going to carry. Don't talk them out of it, Councillor Boyce. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion that
okay, go ahead.
we extend the $111,124.10 from the Economic Development Reserve Fund, where the money is, and not allocating the $24,000 from the Casino Reserve Fund that we don't have yet. So that's my amendment.
Okay, just give me 1 sec. Councillor Thompson, I think that's contrary to the intent of the motion, so I'll rule that amendment out of order at this time. If the motion fails, then you'll be welcome to be able to bring that forward. Okay?
But I'm not against the total motion. That's my concern.
I know, but taking out part of it undermines the whole sake of the motion, because it will leave part of it unfunded, right? So anyways, you have the ability to challenge my ruling if you'd like, but I consulted with the clerk. I'm ruling that the amendment is out of order. We have a motion on the table. I've given everyone lots of time to speak to it, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Mayor Christopher, how are you voting on it? Supported. You supported it? Motion carried. Next item is 8A4, which the Mayor and I have both declared a conflict. Councillor Thompson, you're the next person in the queue for Mayor of the Month, so I'll ask you to take over.
Item 8A4, electrical service contracts for various City of Belleville locations, and we have two that's going to leave because to declare conflict, the Mayor Toss Christopher, Councillor Mitch Penichuk. Special Projects Manager Report, SPM 2018-03, resolution that request proposal submission from 1518000 Ontario Inc. O/A Horwood Electric Services be accepted for supply of electrical services in amount of $65 per hour regular rate and $97.50 per hour overtime in the stat holidays rate for licensed electricians, and $42 per hour regular rate, $63 per hour overtime and stat holiday rate for electricians apprentice. This being the highest scoring submission received, and the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the Corporation of the City of Belleville, and the City Clerk be authorized to fix the corporate seal. I'm mover and a seconder for that. Councillor McCaw, seconder. Councillor Graham. Any questions? Councillor Miller?
Thanks very much, Councillor Thompson. Unfortunately, this whole thing has gotten very murky in my estimation, and I think somebody had already mentioned they had been approached by one of the applicants. We all, I believe, received an email today from one of the applicants, and in as much as that person said that they weren't lobbying, the fact is it is. No matter what you want to call it, it's a lobby. I have an issue with the recommendation because we're dealing with a submission that is significantly higher than others. And I'm not really comfortable with the staff report as far as the justification for a $20 difference per hour in some instances, even more in other instances. And in as much as there might be some specific demonstration of ability to work with solar panels, I don't know what we've been doing to this point. We have a fairly significant inventory of solar panels within the municipality. So perhaps I can ask you, if Mr. Carbrand is here, it's his report, what we've been doing, first of all, when we've had the requirement of assistance with solar panels. I think I saw him. So if council's okay with that, if he
Do we
could
have
come
council
forward.
approval to Mr. Carbrand? Mr. Carbrand? Thank you.
Thanks. Did you hear the question?
I did.
Okay.
Through the chair to Councillor Miller, the main solar package we have is the Quinte Sports Centre. It's very large, and it actually came with a preventative maintenance package. So that one is looked after by itself. The smaller ones we look after. To date, we've cleaned them and done the minor things ourselves and haven't had the requirement. Currently, we do have a need for a solar repair and adjustment, but up until now, we haven't. I don't know if that makes sense.
So it's no longer within our capabilities? Is that what you were saying?
In this RFP that went out, we knew that we're getting to the point on their smaller units that we need solar repair and maintenance and stuff. So that's why it's added into this RFP and not in previous ones before.
The other aspect of the report and justification was that the price includes equipment rentals as required. I know you put a number on that of $39,000. What kind of equipment do we rent?
Through the chair again to Councillor Miller. I added that because it was in the original report. We rent mostly lifts and bucket trucks and equipment like that, and that's the total number of dollars we spent last year on renting a bucket truck. Not all of that was just for electrical, and there was no way to break it down without huge effort. Scoring-wise, when we tabulated the scores, if you look on your addendum A or B or whatever it is, you'll see a list of the items that we actually scored all of the incumbents from. And I believe item number 14 talks about equipment. It doesn't specialize in lifts or anything like that. It's included if the scorekeeper wanted to put a point for it. High voltage equipment, high voltage testing equipment and safety gear, data loggers so we can monitor and find out where building issues are. That's all included in that. There's no specific score for a lift or anything like that. That's just a bonus that one or two companies have offered.
And that's within their price. There's not going to be any further expenditure for this purpose for rentals.
Correct. One of the in our RFP, it says we can phone or check out that kind of thing, and Mr. McGlashan did it in his original report, and I didn't personally find that very clear that it was included, so I called and I said, is that included in your overall schedule price? And yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Graham?
Thank you. First of all, depending on this vote, I too think that the emails, the texts we got today was lobbying. So if this motion doesn't pass, I'd like a ruling through the clerk, Mr. Chair, how we deal with that. Like a ruling on that. I mean, that affects the way that we vote. But I believe that was lobbying when all of us get Gmail on the day we open up the package.
Mr. Kester, did you want to?
Okay, so it's interesting because I did see that email. I saw one email. There could be, management staff don't necessarily receive all the things that council receive. So I did see, I was copied on one letter that was sent to all council. In my opinion, that the bidders during the decision-making process are prohibited from lobbying council. It's quite clear in our purchasing bylaw, which council approved. So that particular firm, if you ask me, I would be saying they should be disqualified from the process. They lobbied individual members of council, and it's contrary to council's purchasing bylaw. But we can go on camera and discuss it further if you wish. We have our solicitor who is here tonight and would be glad to probably discuss it if council needs that further input. But anyway, that's my view on the matter.
Thank you. And that's my view also. I mean, lobbying, it's very clear, and unless I'm missing something, I think it should be disqualified.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Deniers?
I'm speaking to the motion that's on the table, not what council. I agree with what Mike, Councillor Graham is saying. As I've received that email as well, and I think it should be disqualified. But anyway, speaking to the motion before we get off track, I have a question while Mr. Joel Carbrant's at the podium. So the other bids, when we look through these analysis, what's confusing me is the note that says price includes equipment rentals as required. So have you taken that into consideration with the other 6 bids? Does that equipment rental, is that included in all of those prices, or is it just for number 1? Because number 1 is the only one that says note with the asterisk.
Through the chair to Councillor Deniers, that's correct. The note is because in that particular person's RFP, it is listed as an item that they will be using on City of Belleville property doing work at no charge.
So am I to assume then that the rest have the required equipment? And there's no rental fee? This price is all-inclusive of a rental fee?
Only on that unit. The rest did not itemize it.
Okay.
Councillor Boyce? Oh, sorry, Councillor McCaw.
Thank you, through you, Councillor Thompson. You know, we're talking about the email that came through. Everybody has agreed that it's most likely lobbying. Prior to the email coming through, I spent a great deal of time on this from my agenda. And the way I see it is this. Had we gone ahead with the bid that is being suggested, it would have cost us in 2016 $57,000 more than our current provider. If we'd have gone ahead with them in 2017, I think it was a little bit less, but having said that, I think the savings would have been about $39,000. So I have a real hard time looking at this and being accountable to residents of Belleville and saying, you know something, we could have saved you $57,000, but we didn't. So with that in mind, aside from the email that came through, I'm certainly not going to support the motion that's here. Pick any other one you want. But the point is this. It's a substantial increase. $57,000 is a lot of money. That's the difference even after we put in the equipment that was apparently needed sometime, part-time. I guess I have a question, though, for you, if I could. A couple questions. Number 1, when did the contract currently expire that we have with our current provider?
To the chair, to Councillor McCaw, it expired, I believe, about 2.5 months ago.
Follow-up. Who have we been using since then?
We've used, through the chair to Councillor McCaw, we use a variety of different ones, including the current one and several others.
So I'm just going to ask, did we stop using this provider prior to the end of the contract?
No.
Okay. All right. Again?
Can I explain the cost part? Sorry, I mean, through the chair to all the council. When we when we devise these list of questions, and there's 20 or 21 of them, in that list gives us the best understanding of the company that's going to provide the service to the city of Belleville. What we're looking for is the best value for the city. Cost-wise is definitely factored in there, and on my score sheet, because I didn't do it the others, but the highest cost gets the least score. So when I figure it all out and you go across the list, 30 marks is for the person that has the lowest score. And that's the best way to get your value for your dollar. So the person with the highest score may get 5 points. That's part of it. The other part of the factors into it is the company in my scoring, and I can only use my scoring, that has the highest score has the greatest capability of providing service, and they have all the equipment available, including loggers and high voltage equipment and stuff. And I believe that person can come to the job site and do the same function as some of the others much faster, much easier, and quicker. Therefore, bringing the cost to do that function substantially lower. So that, you're 100% right if I could say I need to move that switch to there 100 times. But because electrical services is so varied, it's really hard to just say apples for apples. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how we come up with the scoring. You have to include the price, which we do, but the function of the actual jobs that they do is greatly different.
Councillor Boyce?
I'm going to ask that this motion, if I can get a second, or be tabled pending some pending legal opinion. As we've all heard, we all received an email, and even if we don't respond to that email, there's still the basis that it could be considered lobbying, to us just by simply receiving an email. So I'm going to ask for legal opinion. I'm going to ask that this be tabled until we receive such an opinion.
Do we have a second for that table? Councillor Denys? There's no discussion? Mr. Tablin? Pardon? No. Oh. Sorry. Boyce, I've been instructed when you want that to come back to.
By our next meeting.
By our next. And there's no discussion on the table. And sorry, Councillor Graham, there is no discussion on a tabling motion. So point.
If I could, if we're going to table this and we're asking staff for some information, and I believe the request is some legal information, it's quite clear, but nonetheless we can ask for it. Can I add to the list of things to bring back to staff? Is that appropriate? Never mind.
There's no discussion on legal opinion, so I'm going to call for the question. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. And we'll get Councillor Penchuk back.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson, I think we need sunglasses today to be in this chair, right? Yeah. We'll just wait a moment for the mayor to... (8B) Consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion and council shall consider such items individually. Councillor McCaw, any items you'd like to pull? Okay. Councillor Boyce?
No.
Councillor Deniers?
No, thanks.
Councillor Miller?
Question on 8B3, please.
8B3. Councillor Graham?
Thank you.
Councillor Carr?
8B2, please.
Councillor Thompson?
8B1.
Mayor Christopher?
Thank you. 8B7. And to the chair, you're aware that it took a conflict on 8B2, so if
Yes.
anybody identifies that.
It was already. I have got it. All right, so that I need a motion that the following agenda items be approved with the exception of 8B1, 8B2, 8B3, and 8B7. Am I right? Okay. Moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor McCaw. All in favor? It's carried. We'll start with 8B1, Councillor Thompson. Can I get you to move it?
Yeah, I will move the...
And I'll seconder for it, and then Councillor Boyce. Go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
One question, and I see Mr. Beauvais as the auditor of the report. We received an email this morning from a concerned citizen on bicycles on highways that are fairly busy with concerns with the heavy traffic. In our motion, it shows that they're not allowed to drive on sidewalks. I'm going to look for the chair of that active transportation and Mr. Beauvais maybe to give us some feeling of what, are we putting some people in danger by not allowing them on some sidewalks in busy roads?
I'll start with Director Beauvais, perhaps, and then we can ask Councillor Boyce, who's the chair of that committee.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson. The letter writer provided similar comments late last year as part of the public circulation of the bylaw, and those comments went back to the Active Transportation Committee at the last meeting, and I think it was, there was some good discussion around the pros and cons of allowing older people to ride on the sidewalk. The draft bylaw, or the bylaw as proposed, allows anyone under the age of 14 to ride on sidewalks, and the discussion was around people older than that. And I mean, the older people on the sidewalk, there's a hazard to pedestrians, so it's a balancing act, recognizing. I agree with the letter writer. There are certainly streets in the city that most of us wouldn't feel comfortable riding our bicycle on, and would probably be on the sidewalk pretty fast. And is there merit to the suggestion that that maybe fines aren't issued in those particular streets? That gets to be a little hard for the police to enforce. I think going forward, it's better to have a line that they can use as their guide to enforcement.
Thank you, Director Beauvais. Councillor Boyce, do you want to add anything?
Just that it is, and I recognize, I think I've probably ridden on every street in Belleville, and some, like I say, I try to avoid more than others, and but there is a point where you have to remember that there are people walking on the sidewalks, and there's the entrances and exits, and that tends to be where most of the accidents happen, when there's a bicycle on the sidewalk and a car is pulling out, and it's easier, the pedestrians are going a little slower, it's easier to recognize them, but you do your left and then you do your right, and you go to pull out and you've got a bike that's doing, say, 25 kilometers, he's right behind you, and I've been witness to it personally, where this has occurred, and so you have to draw the line between the safety and everything. So whether you're saying that there should be some streets that are exempt, at the moment, I'm really not in favor of exempting some of the streets, because then it's up to individuals. You know, I may find a street with experience safe to ride on, and other people may not find that street as safe. So it's up to an individual's, you know, what they believe. So I think there was a lot of discussion, as you know, on that particular part. But I think that if we can keep it the way it is, that riding on the streets is prohibited, except for when you're under the certain age of 14.
Thompson?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, and I thank Mr. Beauvais for bringing it to attention. I had really forgot that particular letter was brought forward to the Traffic Committee, and it's been addressed through a committee, so we've discussed it, so I'll vote in favor of them.
Okay. And you don't want to make your neighborhood a bicycle-free zone, do you? No? Okay. Councillor Graham?
No, I'll pass.
Okay. Anyone else would like to speak on this matter? I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 8B2, Mayor Christopher, you declared a conflict on this one, I believe?
On item 2, if you're going there.
Okay. I'll let you judge how it goes then. So, Councillor Carr, you asked for this to be opened. You'll move it. A seconder? Councillor McCaw. Go ahead, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just looking at the police headquarters update on page 17 and 18 of our agenda, I see that drawings are 100% complete. The bid package was prepared for tender, and the tender was posted. I'm just going to ask a question, as I have from time to time. The budget sits at $21 million based on the design and everything all in. Are we looking at a projected on budget here?
Mr. Joel Carr-Brandt is in the audience, and I'll ask him to come back up if he could. We'll start with him and see if he can answer that question. Did you hear the question from Councillor Carr?
I did, thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Carr. Yes, our hope is that it does come in. We, in the report, we were recommended by our cost consultant to have at least 6 prices, and we've shortlisted to 9, hoping we get to the 6 to 8 area. If we do, hopefully it's nice and sharp and it comes in on budget.
All right. Anything else? Anyone else? Councillor Boyce?
And it's kind of a segue into the multi-purpose trail that we just discussed and the bicycling.
Thank you, Mr. Carr.
Are we still confident that on the Northeast Industrial Park, the multi-purpose trail and sidewalks will be completed in 2018?
Right. Director Beauvais?
Through the chair to Councillor Boyce, certainly much more confident than we were just a month or two ago. We do have an agreement with CN on the work that will need to be done on the various crossings throughout the industrial park. We're just working with CN now to confirm the cost sharing on that, and most importantly, the future maintenance sharing of costs. So we're confident we'll be able to get the tender out this summer.
Yeah, and at this time I want to thank Director Beauvais for being at CN and ensuring that we were going to get this done. Sometimes we've had frustration about the, with CN, CP, and how slow the process is, but we finally got this underway.
All right, excellent. Anyone else on 8B2? All in favor? It's carried. 8B3, sidewalk repairs and replacement contract. I took a conflict on that one, so I will ask Councillor Thompson to come forward again and finish up.
If it's okay, I'll just read it from here, if that's...
You're welcome to do it. I'll just leave the room.
8B3, sidewalk repairs and replacement contract, ENG 2018-08. Project Manager Report Number ENG 2018-19. Resolution, the tender submission from Standard Paving Limited and be accepted for the contract ENG 2018-08. Sidewalk repairs and replacement in the amount of $140,030 plus $18,203.90 HST for a total amount $158,233.90. This being the lowest cost tender received. Then the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on the behalf of the Corporation of the City of Belleville, and the City Clerk be authorized to fix the corporate seal. May I move it and seconder? Councillor Miller. Seconder. Go once. Councillor McCaw. Any questions? Councillor Miller.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Two questions, actually. One, there were 5 applications or 5 submissions. 2 are certainly within the ballpark of one another. As a matter of fact, there's only $1,600 separating the lowest tenders, but the recommendation is for the one that's slightly higher. We're not talking about a big dollar figure based on $141,000, but I'm just curious as to what tilted the recommendation in the favor of the Parkside application, which was slightly higher. Oh, my apologies. Okay, I'll move on to the second question. I had it backwards. That being, the sidewalk repairs to be made at the water treatment plant will be issued through a separate contract issued by the Recreation, Culture and Community Services Department. Why does it go through that department? Through you to Director Beauvais?
Mr. Beauvais?
Through the chair to Councillor Miller, the property section is within Recreation, Culture and Community Services, and they will look after that as they would with other city buildings.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'll strike that first question up to the head cold I've got. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Denius?
Standard Paving, are they a local business? Do we know?
Mr. Beauvais?
Through the chair to Councillor Denius, they are corporately based in Halifax, but they do have operations based out of Quinte West as well.
And if I may ask another question through
Please.
to Director Beauvais, Mr. Chair. Parkside Landscaping, have they held this contract before?
Through the chair to Councillor Denius, yes. Over the past number of years, there's been 2 or 3 local firms that have seemed to alternate the contract over the years, but I think the last couple of years Parkside has had the contract.
So do we know what tilted the scales then in favor of Standard Paving by $1,600 when we have somebody local and a historic affiliation with Parkside probably doing a good job if they've been hired time and time again? Do we know what tipped the scales there as far as the $1,600?
Through the chair to Councillor Denius, it's a tender, so they're required to give us their best price, and in this case, Standard came in $1,600 less. We've checked references on them. They've done work in Quinte West. The references checked out. In those situations, typically, when it's a tender, we recommend the lowest cost.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. So I just want to go down that road a little bit that Councillor Deniers was going down. The company 809592, I think their world headquarters is probably Prince Edward County, but they have offices in the Ward 2 component, which is Parkside Landscaping. And through the chair, I just want to walk us through how we award these tenders when we talk about their references, either their work references or their credit references. Are they done ahead of time now, Mr. Chair? Or if we approve this, is staff going to do a little bit more intense investigation on work references? And if there's any flags, and will it end up maybe coming back to council to review the information?
Mr. Beauvais?
Through the chair to his worship, certainly the purchasing department reviews the bids and reviews the bid deposits that come in with these tenders. They make sure that they're valid deposits. Going forward, if council awards the contract to a particular firm, that firm then has other deposits to make in terms of material deposits and whatnot. So those are all checked through the finance department before the contract is signed by the city. And then as we move into them working on the contract, we monitor them. We have an inspector on site to monitor their performance, and certainly we keep their performance in mind in future years. If we have issues with this particular firm and they choose to bid on next year's contract, that will certainly weigh in our review of the tenders along with the price and what we recommend back to council.
So a follow-up, Mr. Chair. So let's just talk a little bit about the history. So you're saying that it would go on file of a supplier that we had. So we would have on file a history of to Parkside because they've done work in the past, as you had mentioned, to Councillor Danier's. For instance, this agency here, this, where did I see it down here? Somebody help me, the name. This Standard Paving Limited. World headquarters is down Eastern Canada. They have done some work in Quinte West. So in reality, did we inquire about the workmanship, and did you get documentation, or is that sensitive when we look at the workmanship? Because I haven't, unless I'm wrong, have they done work for their corporation, City of Belleville, in the past?
Mr. Bove?
Through the chair to His Worship, sorry, have they done work for the City of Belleville in the past? Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
We do, as part of the tender, all of the bidding firms have to submit references that we can check if we choose going forward with their particular bid. So we do talk to colleagues in other municipalities about their performance, and certainly in this case we spoke to Quinte West and to other references that they provided in Eastern Canada, and they had excellent reports on them.
Okay, I just want a small follow-up. So you know where I want to go is, and it's not staffing, it's the system. This is a tender submission. So in reality, at the end of the day, the least expensive tender is going to get the job from the Corporation City of Belleville. In reality, even if references came back with small little red flags or big flags, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's totally relevant. At the end of the day, this is a tender process. The least expensive applicant for the job that we put forward is going to get the work. Mr. Chair, that's what I'm inquiring. Can you get me an answer, please?
Yeah. Mr. Bove?
Through the chair to His Worship, certainly if the reference checks came back and were cause for concern, then staff would have no issue recommending that council not accept the lowest one and that we go to the next lowest tender, provided that next lowest tender, their references check out as well. So, that's something we have to go by, particularly in cases where they have not worked for us or haven't worked for us in a lengthy period of time.
Yeah.
Certainly with some of the other bidders on there, we've worked with them, so we know what to expect from those bidders and whether or not they can do the job. When it's a new bidder, then we're taking a bit of a leap of faith in that we're relying on those references that come in to let us know if they do good work.
Right. Okay, in saying that, so I just want to comment on the resolution to the chair. So I really appreciate the information. It was very informative. But I still believe somewhere, someplace down the road, these tender submission process and policies got to be revisited, because I know it ties the hands of our senior manager and decision makers in process. But saying that, I'm not going to support the resolution that's before us, because I look at the reverse. I look at the other applicant that came in $1,600 difference, or approximately $1,682. I look at the history of that corporation, regardless of where they are, regardless if they're local. They've done work for the municipality. They've done work for the sidewalk replacement. There's been a number of years. At the present time, there shows no imperfections, no deficiencies, no issues that would have been identified in the tender submission. And then I look forward, and Director Bove did a great job in explaining that, if it's a new submission, you look at the dollars and cents, but you have to take a leap of faith, hopefully that the credentials and the accreditation and the references you get. But we have learned in the world that we live in governance, if there's small little flags maybe somewhere, someplace, due to confidentiality and due to what word am I looking here, due to some legal directions that, specific agencies may take, you may not get a bigger picture. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't happen, but at the present time, what I'm seeing in front of me, from the past practice of the agency that came in second, I'm not going to be supporting the recommendation or the resolution before us. Thank you.
Councilor.
Thank you, through you. Just and further to what Mayor Christopher is saying, I would tend to agree with him. The only caveat I have with this is we're talking $1,600, which isn't a big dollar amount. But what happens if 1,600 becomes 20,000, 30,000? I mean, that's where it becomes a slippery slope. I agree. That particular company has done work for the city, and we know the quality of their work, whereby the other one, $1,600 less, we have no idea. But again, I guess the question that I have is, where does it end? 1,600, 100,000, 200,000? We have to be mindful of that when we're making decisions like this.
Councilor Miller.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Through you to the city treasurer. And we've been around the block on this, I think, ever since I've been on council, because I share the mayor's sentiment in terms of buying locally any chance you have the opportunity. But under the city's purchasing bylaw, I don't think we have that luxury. There's a discriminatory piece to that precludes us from making decisions based on where a business is located. So if we were to go against the recommendation, because it's a tender, not an RFP, and if we don't go with the lowest qualified bidder, I don't know if Mr. Cousins can answer it, but based on our purchasing bylaw, does that expose the city to legal action?
New Chair, Councilor Miller, yes.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
So just clarity, Mr. Chair. I want to make it perfectly crystal clear. If I did, I retract. But I don't think I did say, because the second scoring proponent is local.
No.
The second scoring proposal is, or proponent has done work in the past for the Corporation City of Belleville. My understanding, they do work in the City of Belleville, they do work in Prince Edward County, they do work across the entire province. I'm going on past practice and history of that proponent that came in second place. I'm also looking at the information that Director Beauvais gave, which was very comprehensive, is if there were flags, if there were concerns, if there was a history of any deficiencies or issues, it would have come forward at the tender process, and it did not. So I'm looking at the aesthetic and the history of the workmanship that this organization has done for our corporation and for the taxpayers. That's what I'm looking. Not looking at the local component, regardless if he or she or that organization is. I'm looking at the information before us. So I'll be asking for a recorded vote to the chair on this resolution.
Thank you.
I'm going to support the resolution. Support the resolution. Our staff recommended, they sat through the interviews and priced all together. They're put forward which they think is the best option. I'm going to support our staff and vote and support the resolution.
Councilor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarification purposes, I'm going to ask the question through you to Mr. Beauvais. With the recommendation before us and the company that's been recommended, in your due diligence, was there any concerns related to performance?
Through the chair to Councillor Carr, no, the reviews that and the references we got back spoke to quality of work that the municipalities were happy with. So.
And that's good to hear, and I recognize, the mayor had mentioned that if there were performance issues and perhaps maybe with another municipality, that there would be some reasons why they couldn't necessarily disclose those performances. But I would argue that if a municipality were to have performance issues with a particular company, they would just simply not provide comment. So therefore, they fall within the parameters of any agreements they may have but it'd be quite clear that if they're not willing to provide you with a positive comment, then you can read between the lines without violating any contractual arrangement that has been made. So I'm pretty confident that if Mr. Bove and his staff have gone through, completed that due diligence, and haven't received any no comments back, then we're pretty safe to say that the workmanship should be just fine. Thank you.
Thank you. I had just one question, but Councillor Miller asked it on the legal side of it, so we're going to call for a vote on it. It's a recorded vote called by Mayor Christopher, and we're going to have the question right now.
Councillor Miller?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Boyce?
Yes.
Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Councillor Deniers?
Yes.
Councillor Graham?
Yes.
Councillor McCaw?
Yes.
Mayor Christopher?
Nope.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And we'll get Councillor Panichuk back in.
Thank you again, Councillor Thompson. Next item is 8B7, request for extension to draft plan of subdivision approval, Hanley Park subdivision, part of Lot 14, Concession 1, formerly Township of Thurlow. The owner is Hanley Park Developments Incorporated, and it's the Manager of Approvals Report number APS 2018-12. And the resolution is that pursuant to Section 5133 of the Planning Act, the Council of the Corporation of the City of Belleville hereby approves the extension of draft plans approval for subdivision 12T-02506 until June 30th, 2019. Mayor Christopher, you asked for this. Are you moving it?
Yes.
Yes. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Miller, Mayor Christopher.
Thank you. So I'm on page 39, and there's an excellent detailed report here. But the question I have is, I think I've been around the table here since, well, just a little after, I think, 06 or maybe 06, when the same application continuously looked for extensions. And I just want to go through the chair, and if you can inquire through staff, what are the disadvantages, or how does this impede our water, our availability of water service or capacity of water for new and upcoming subdivisions? Can you give me an answer to that, please?
Director Bove, can I ask you to answer that question, please?
Through the chair to His Worship, really it doesn't impact us too much, which is why staff doesn't have any objection to the extension. There are circumstances where that may be an issue, and we've had that historically going back many years, the early 90s. There were issues with what was known as the East Pumping Station beside the sewage treatment plant that restricted how much development we could approve. And so when you have a situation like that and someone has draft approval and then they continuously look for an extension and don't move ahead with it, that may preclude someone who wants to go ahead and build. And so by requiring the developer to come forward to council and ask for the extensions, it gives council the opportunity to take that approval away and give it to someone who's ready to build if you have a situation where someone isn't and it is affecting someone else going ahead. In this case, it really doesn't impact anyone else. It doesn't take away capacity that someone else is waiting for.
I just want to follow up through the chair, if that's okay. Not that someone else is waiting for. What if a new developer, and it's happening every single month now, our planning staff and the committee and the PAC, they receive all sorts of inquiries and deputations of up-and-coming subdivisions. At the end of the day, if there's a developer, a new developer, comes into our municipality and has bought a pile of land and has the cash and is ready to go, wants to hit the ground running fast, and he wants to put up 300 brand-new dwellings, do we have the capacity to do it, even though this is still on the books?
Through the chair to His Worship, not an easy question to answer because it's not just a question of capacity at the sewage treatment plant, it's a question of capacity of the sanitary sewer system, for instance, getting it to the sewage plant. So there are areas of the city where there may be a restriction on capacity due to the size of piping and things of that nature. If the question is strictly, do we have capacity at the sewage treatment plant, then yes, we do have capacity.
So this particular 280 dwellings, does it put a hold on the capacity for water and wastewater in the big picture of the corporation?
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't do anything. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Just a quick question on the extension. I see on page 40 it says owner agent requesting extension that will not be able to clear the remaining conditions in the next 5 days, but yet we're looking for an extension until June 30th, 19. What's the difference in those two statements, if I may?
Sure, Director Beauvais.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, he was trying, I think, to clear the conditions before his current draft approval expires in the next 5 days, but he realized he wasn't likely going to get that done, so that's why he put in the request for the extension. Typically, on these requests, we usually give a year or 2 or 3 years. In this case, he feels he'll be well underway within a year.
So he was the one that requested the 2-year extension, and we're putting it in here to agree on 2 years. We could have stipulated a 1-year extension?
We're recommending a 1-year extension.
Oh, sorry. I got the wrong year in my head.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? So I have a quick question. Director Beauvais, I know it's in the report, but just maybe you can remind us, when was the original request for extension on this plan? Was it in 2006?
Through the chair, the original application came in 2006.
Right.
And then I believe it has been extended several times since then. 2009, typically when council grants draft approval, it's approved for a 3-year period, and then at the end of that 3 years, an extension is required or the draft approval lapses. Right. So it has been extended in 2009, 2012, 2015, and 2017.
Right. And then in 2017, am I correct in there was a change in ownership of the property? And it came to us and the new owners asked for an additional extension?
Yes, that's correct.
And so has the property changed ownership again?
No, I believe it's the same owner, and as was mentioned in the report, from what we understand, the owner was running in the past provincial election and was preoccupied, I guess.
So I think the question on everyone's mind, and maybe I'll just ask it, is when do we stop extending this? We've done this now starting in 2009, and we've done it. So it's going to be 10 years worth of extensions at the time this expires. When does the city of Belleville say develop it or dispose of it and let someone else develop it?
Through the chair, it's really a question of, is there any reason not to extend it? If there is, whether it's capacity related or another reason, then I think that's the time where council says, you know, enough's enough. In this case, as was indicated earlier, the extension is not precluding anyone else from developing. If the draft approval lapses, then for the owner to carry forward, he has to go back to the beginning of the subdivision process, file his application for draft plan, go through the public meeting, and move through that public process back to the stage that he's at now, where he's working to finalize the subdivision agreement.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, Councillor Miller, I'll recognize him in a moment. You know, I think that this is not unlike some other situations we have in the city where we need property owners to begin to take action. And there are a number of comments from residents in the area that are concerned about this development going forward, and you know, we've got to do it. Councillor Miller?
Thanks very much, Councillor Panchuk. The encouraging part for me is the fact that they've only asked for a one-year extension this time around, and I share the concerns because I certainly had them on another project which sat on the books for over a decade, and that's Heritage Park in Ward 2. And again, Ward 2, where water capabilities and so on were certainly a lot more limited than, especially at that time, from what they are now and in the Ward 1 area. That went on for 10 years or more. And I was getting concerned, I know other members of council were getting concerned because we were holding back capacity and perhaps it could have had an impact. But I don't know how many homes they have there now, but they're building like crazy. So I think the encouraging part of this is it's a one-year extension, and I know it's been on the books for a long, long time, but it sounds like it's about ready to go, and as Director Beauvais says, is there any reason to hold it back or to say no this time around? I mean, if they come back in a year, that could be a different story, but for now, I'll support the extension request.
Anyone else? I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. There are no council information matters. Before I ask for a motion to rise and report, I just want to thank you, fellow council. This will be my last time prior to the end of the year chairing Committee of the Whole. I'd like to thank you all for your patience and your cooperation. With that, I'll have a motion to rise and report. Moved by Councillor Graham, second by Councillor Carr. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, under bylaws, obviously you can see your agenda. Bylaws are number 9. We don't have any readings of the first bylaws. First reading of the first bylaws, or readings of the first bylaws, whichever way you want to take it. 9B, second reading of the bylaws and discussion, 2017-146. The bylaws before you to regulate bicycles, skateboards, and inline skates, and rollerblades, and e-bikes. So a motion on second reading of 2017-146, moved by Councillor Penchak, second by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? All opposed? That's carried. And third reading of the same bylaw, 2017-146. Third reading of the bylaw, moved by Councillor Miller, second by Councillor Panchak. All in favor? That's carried. Any new business? Councillor Panchak.
Thank you, Mayor Christopher. Last night and this morning, I've received calls from residents regarding the status or the condition of washroom facilities at Zwicks Park. Last night, again, it was a beautiful evening. They had a great turnout for their Sunday night or Sunday late afternoon event, and the comments that we received at the washroom facilities were in less than appropriate order, and from the fact that they were not just clean or they were full, but also that there wasn't sufficient paper towel, there wasn't sufficient sanitizer, excuse me. So I guess first I want to ask Manager Reid, because I know that he looked into it today, if he could just report back to through us to the public what we've done and what we can look forward to going forward.
Through the can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Through the chair to Councillor Panchak. We've got a new RFP went out this year for new Johnny on the spot temporary facilities down there. They do actually, the truck that shows up and actually does the cleaning once a week, which is outlined in the RFP. Does have GPS unit within that truck. So we do have it had been on schedule, it had been cleaned once per week, but within the, I guess the toilet areas, there is a little schedule that they're supposed to check off, and the last time it was actually physically checked off was June the 2nd. So that caused a little bit of confusion with some of the residents and users of the area, thinking that it hadn't been cleaned on a regular basis. So it had been verified that the truck had been there, had cleaned the areas up. The schedule has now been increased, and part of the RFP would allow for us to ask for more regular cleanings during high events. And, you know, we're moving into, Canada Day, waterfront and so forth. So it will be inspected twice per week for the rest of the summer.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that, and I just maybe would suggest that we take a look at perhaps they need to have newer units, and the deodorizer has to be adjusted, because again, we're getting into the season where that will compound. But while I'm on my feet on this issue, last year City Council approved through the capital budget a process to construct new permanent facilities there, because we had a problem with sewage capacity as well as the age of those units. I believe they were built for Canada's centennial back in 1967. So we funded that in our last capital budget, and I wonder if I can ask for an update where we are on the schedule for the new facilities and when we can anticipate them being in use at West Wicks Park. Thank you.
Thank you. I checked with Rob McGlashan, our project person in charge of that file. We have 2 components left to get specs on from the engineers, which is the holding tank and the lift station for it. And once they're expecting those within the week. Once that is transferred to purchasing, the tender package is ready to go, and they're hoping the end of summer or early fall will be building.
Good, thank you. Any more new business going around the chute? Seeing none, any motions? Notice of motions? I've got a couple of announcements, and don't forget, once we get done, we have to go back into camera, so nobody rush away. So I've got just a couple of announcements, and we'll be out of here. I got a couple of proclamations. One proclamation that the month of June is Bike Month. I would like to officially proclaim June in Belleville, Bike Month. And also, if you look outside in the foyer, you'll see a beautiful, like a 10-foot painting when I participated in the mayor's bike ride earlier last, I think it was Thursday, Friday, in the pouring rain. We had an enormous large crowd that participated, so I want to thank them very much. And also they were kind enough to donate a great big painting that was done locally at the school. Also, as Mayor Tassel Christopher that I am, I'd like to proclaim the month of June is Doctor Appreciation Month within the Corporation of City of Belleville. Doctor Appreciation Month celebrates the hardworking physicians that we are so fortunate to have working within our corporation, our city, and with our families. And some events I had the pleasure of attending by last meeting representing the corporation. We attended the 35th Annual Mayor's Challenge Golf Tournament and came up a little short of bringing home the trophy. I think we're just going to make one and keep one here. Also, I mentioned earlier about the Mayor's Bike Ride, identifying the month of June as Bike Month. Also, I had the pleasure of interviewing our CEO, Trevor Pross, and Susan Holland from the Parrot Gallery during the Tower Talk, and brought out some really nice information for the viewing audience for your TV about the library and the Parrot Gallery at the Belleville Public Library. Also had a pleasure of bringing greetings to the Provincial Lawn Bowling Championships last week that we hosted here in Belleville. There was players from all over the province. It's quite an event. We should be tremendously proud of the local Lawn Bowling Association that hosts an event like that. Also had the pleasure to going to see, which is probably the largest in the province, Cops for Kids Fishing Derby. Our local volunteers, our frontline officers in fire services and the military, and I don't want to miss anybody, so I won't identify them all, but they've all come together as volunteers and have a great event, Cops for Kids Fishing Derby at Victoria Park. Actually saw a couple police officers kissing a small little fish. Also, I talked to you, we did 60-plus visits with myself and the Manager of Economic Development to Doctor Appreciation visits. Visited, I think, 60-plus physicians in the city of Belleville last week and expressed appreciation and gratitude for the work and the service they do for our community. Also had the pleasure of attending Quinte Christian High graduation. Very nice event, beautiful in their auditorium at the school. Also attended the AGM for Trentville, and the new chair of the board is Glenn LeClaire. They've got some innovative, exciting things going forward for the city of Belleville, and also brought greetings on behalf of all the families in the city and council members to the Pride Parade last weekend at the Lions Pavilion at Swicks Park. So it's been a robust couple weeks. Very exciting stuff. Councillor Thompson.
A couple of notes. I had the pleasure of attending 2 retirements at Loyalist College. Diane Spencer and Kathy Rushton, both retiring at the end of August. I went and presented both of them a certificate. Kathy sits on the Inclusion Committee and is retiring, and she'll be position will be filled by another one from Loyalist. And I had the great pleasure of attending the OLA celebration, and certainly a milestone in our community to have those people celebrating graduation, maybe from going grade 1 to 2 to 5 to 8 in that second language. And the emotions at that graduation is phenomenal. The people that are from, I think there was 41 different countries that were there in attendance.
Good, very nice.
It's great for the community.
It's a great event.
Thank you.
We're tremendously lucky and proud. Okay, seeing no more announcements, we'll ask I apologize. I'll ask council to go back in camera. Oh, I'm sorry, the clerk has a comment. Go ahead, sir.
I apologize if I can. The fire chief had to leave early, but asked me to just let everybody know that the flood information package outlining information preparing for a flood, during flood, and after a flood has been distributed to all of the residents that were affected in the 2014 and 2017 flood events. Those were distributed door to door by the emergency services folks. And secondly, we are hosting here in council chambers this Thursday night, June 28th, from 6 to 8, a council candidate information session. That's a mouthful. Staff from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Clerk's Office will be here to provide information to any prospective candidate who decides they want to or has already filed their nomination papers, just providing information.
Excellent, thank you. So we'll move into in camera. We have one item we have to finish, and we'll come back out and close the meeting. Well, thank you very much.
Calling everybody. Yes, sir. How are you?
What does this bicycle bylaw mean now?
Well, it means it's mostly for scooters and e-scooters and those ones. We had to have something in place.
Okay, item number 14, confirmatory bylaw, that a bylaw number 2018-101, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at this meeting held today, the 25th day of June 2018, be read first, second, and third time, and finally passed again today, the 25th of June 2018. Moved by Councillor Miller, second by Councillor Deniers. All in favor? That's carried. Need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Carr, and do you need a seconder? And Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Have a safe night. Everybody drive safe.